Hello and welcome back to another episode. So today we have another one photo deep dive. I discovered this from Dolce and Gabbana and it's actually quite brilliant. So first you might think I'm going on a tangent here, but I'm not. I'm trying to set up where we're going in this photo, okay? So just bear with me here as I show you some index cards. So what this photo is all about, it's about the theft of intellectual property or creative laziness. Now you'll see these four models. We have three that are creative laziness and one is the theft of intellectual property. So let's start now. The one outfit that's intellectual property theft. Let's talk about derivative art. Okay, the most important word is substantial, right? For something to qualify as derivative art, it has to have substantial transformation of from the underlying work. Okay, moving on. So what got me started on this was not only seeing this image, but my wife and I were taking a drive the other day, and we sometimes we listen to. I have Sirius XM, and we have it on sometimes Channel 1, which is Hits 1, and we heard this new song from the Jonas Brothers, and it's called "What a Man Gotta Do," and the opening riff, it's remarkably similar to Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17, okay, and the similarities are quite overwhelming. So still, bear with me now. This is in music, right? Not photography and not fashion. So a sample, if you remember back in the olden days, this probably goes back, to me it seems like this really started with when Run DMC and Aerosmith, they did that joint venture with Walk This Way, right? It was Aerosmith and Run DMC, and it was a brilliant song. And it really opened up. That's when the floodgates opened up to sampling. Okay, now sampling, a verbatim sample, is when you actually take the cut of the original song, right? This is the implication here is with permission. So the agent from the band that wants to take the sample gets with the original artist and they cut some kind of a deal, whether it's a percentage or whatever, but some type of royalty goes to the original artist. And what I think the trend is nowadays, I'm hearing a lot of songs and it's not they're not verbatim samples from the original works. It's clear, you can hear the influence, just like Jonas Brothers and Stevie Nicks. And what I think is happening is they're making a very slight alteration to the original riff or the original hook or whatever, right, so that they can claim it's a derivative art and therefore they don't have to pay any royalties to the original artist. So we've seen full attribution to the original artist with royalties, to now we're seeing all this slippery nonsense going on today with samples, but very slight alterations to the sample to avoid paying royalties. And what Dolce and Gabbana is doing here, I think they're acknowledging that. They're acknowledging intellectual theft in fashion, in music, in the arts, and creative laziness. So let's examine this now. That was my intro. I'm trying to set up where Dolce and Gabbana were trying to take this image, okay? So if you look at the image on the left, clearly they're borrowing here, right? So this is part of creative laziness. They're taking a page from the mid-1980s, and this is Miami. So this would be something you would see in Miami Vice, or especially the rapper Vanilla Ice. Remember, Vanilla Ice wore this type of clothing. So Dolce and Gabbana is engaging in creative laziness. Again, it's part of self-deprecation. They're taking a shot at themselves and the fashion industry with this creative laziness. They're just borrowing from 1980s Miami. Okay, I'll save this one for last. This image, or this model rather, this model is clearly, again, it's a reference to Melania Trump's visit to Kenya in October 2018, right? So she was just torn to shreds in the media for wearing a traditional safari outfit, kind of being tone deaf in the year 2018, wearing a traditional safari outfit with a pith helmet, okay? But what happened is it caught on, and all the fashion houses started producing something like this. You'll see this in a lot of different fashion houses. They actually stole that from Melania, and now it's all the rage, okay? The only thing that's kind of bad about this is they have some, right, it indicates, almost kind of implies poaching, right, because it's a tiger print or a leopard print, right? And that wasn't too cool. But anyways, they could have used a solid camisole or a shirt underneath here, so that the implication wasn't poaching. But regardless of that, let's move on to the next image here. And we have two things going on in this image, which is so cool. Clearly, this is a tiger, and what they're saying here, we're going to capitalize on the popularity of Netflix's Tiger King. Okay, and not only that, we have an influence here from Georgia O'Keeffe. So they're stealing here Georgia O'Keeffe's work, where, right, we have the erect clitoris or clitoris, right? There are two accepted pronunciations. You'll see that in a lot of Georgia O'Keeffe's work. It was hypersexualized, and she always kind of used this image of an erect clitoris. Okay, so we have this whole image is based on borrowing, right? Creative laziness. But here, and this is the most critical one, it's this model here, because if you'll notice her shoulder, and in here, this area especially, okay, they've transcended creative laziness, and now it's actual intellectual theft. And if you'll notice the pattern, this pattern is the intellectual property of Donatella Versace, because this is the pattern she made for Jennifer Lopez at the 2000 Grammys. Okay, so again, we're talking about sampling in music, and Jeff Koons, his entire career has been based on, right, almost like this kind of artistic sampling or claims of derivative art. And now it's what Dolce and Gabbana is doing. They're using the sample, the concept of a sample, in their design. So they've lifted a portion of Donatella Versace's pattern, inserted it into a greater garment, and it's basically, that's what they're talking about. That's what they're claiming, is this is derivative art. Okay, because now this is the test. Let me get my index card. So, right, you can see it's now a subset of a greater garment, but does it meet this threshold? Is this a substantial transformation of or from the underlying work? So it's this is brilliant. This is brilliant on Dolce's part, because I think they're tired of it too, because I've seen a lot of their work, and their work is absolutely beautiful. They have some of the best fashion designers in the industry, and there's no way they would willfully engage in this type of creative laziness and theft, because they're better than that. They don't have to resort to that. So it leads me to believe this is it's a shot. It's almost like a Saturday Night Live sketch, right? They're taking a shot at the entire industry for creative laziness and intellectual theft of other people's intellectual property. So again, my most sincere thanks for Dolce and Gabbana for coming up with something so creative and so wonderful as to acknowledge the creative laziness and the intellectual theft that is occurring in the industry. Okay, and that just about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. If not, feel free to give me a thumbs down, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much.